Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Recovery Classroom. My name is Drew. I'm an alcoholic, and today, by the grace of God, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I could not be any more grateful. Last night, we did not have our Crosstalk Zoom meeting. We took the whole weekend off, and it was nice. Actually, I needed it. But I've been thinking, I know we've been talking a lot here lately, too. And I've been personally taking a lot of folks through the Big Book individually, one by one. And I absolutely love the Big Book because, again, it's what I used to learn about the steps. It's what I use as a source of reference I use to learn about the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and their 12 steps of recovery. And so I got to thinking, how about taking people through the Big Book all at once, together, like on a Zoom call, right? On a Zoom meeting. So, and again, let me say this. We are not here to push a specific pathway. I can't take you through the basic text of NA because I never read the basic text of NA. I don't know the basic text of NA. I know the steps are ridiculously similar, almost identical, but I can't take you through the basic text of NA. I can take you through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, though, because that's what I personally use. So while we're not trying to push anything, if nothing else, if you have an idea, if you're curious about AA, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and their 12 steps, you might want to stop by and check it out and say, okay, it's not for me, or no, I think I'll hang out in this room. So again, we're not trying to push it, but if you're interested in joining this, dare I say, Big Book study via Zoom, private message the Recovery Classroom on Facebook and let us know. Send us your email address through Facebook Messenger, and we'll put it down. As soon as we get it together, we'll let you know. So Crosstalk meeting Friday night was awesome. There was one topic that came in and about floored me. It's like somebody hit me in the jaw. And it was talking about comparison versus identity. And when I read that card, I got the card and I was like, man, it was just like somebody punched me. That's a huge topic. I mean, as soon as I read it, my wheels are spinning. And I wanted to talk about it this morning. I was going to talk about it yesterday, but man, I spent all day yesterday thinking about it and putting my notes together. So I want to talk about it this morning. Recovery is about finding who you are, finding your identity. Plain and simple, finding out the person that you really truly are. And for me, I know that I hated who I had became. I hated the person I'd become. I hated the fact I didn't know who I'd become. I hated the fact that I thought I was this person when in reality I was this person, and I hated that fact alone. And it all came down to I would compare myself to others. I'd compare myself to others in public, maybe at the baseball field, at the grocery store, whatever. I compare myself to people on social media. And instead of finding out who I was, I found out who I wasn't, and I found out these inadequacies of my own personal character, if you will. And so drinking helped me hide that. Drinking would help me hide and suppress these feelings of inadequacy. I would compare myself to others drinking even. Hey, look at them drinking, like normal people. Why can't I drink like a normal person? Why do I get stupid and, they get all these other benefits, just the social aspect of it. And I started thinking back about it, especially over the course of the last 24 or 48 hours. I spent my whole life comparing myself to others. And instead of identifying who I was identifying who I wasn't. I was identifying who I wasn't, thinking that I was going to identify who I was. I was identifying the deficiencies in my own personal makeup. I was identifying I was identifying my failures. And so what did I do? I would drink even more. That vicious cycle we always talk about, right? Our identity crisis all began with comparing. And what I mean by that, I look at the page 2 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Bill says, I'd prove to the world that I was important. Important, so he thinks he's not important. He's comparing himself to people who are important. Is that what he's saying? On page 3, he says, for the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived. He's still comparing himself to other people. We use the comparing tool. We use this tool of comparing, if you will, ourselves to other people, our lives, our livelihoods, our jobs, our professions, our careers. We use the tool of comparing incorrectly. We used it in the wrong way. We would compare what we have and don't have. We would compare who we are and who we're not. And at the end of the day, no wonder we lost track of who we truly were. I didn't realize that until once I started getting sober. I had spent my whole life, focused on my job and my career, wanting to provide for my family, focused on all these things I didn't have that I wanted, and I forgot who I was. On page 23 of the big book, Bill sums it up very succinctly. He says, therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. And that's exactly what it was. It was all up here. Because all I did is I kept comparing myself, and by me using that comparison tool incorrectly, I created an identity crisis. An identity crisis. Man, I love it. This is good stuff. We couldn't figure out who we are. We couldn't figure out who we wanted to become because we didn't know who we were in the first place. We didn't know who we had became, if you will. And so what did we do? We turned to the only thing that we knew would make us feel better, feel differently, hide those insecurities, mask those emotions of inadequacies. Drugs, alcohol. We turned to that because that made us feel better about not knowing who we truly were. Man, good stuff. And don't get me wrong, we still can use comparing tool, if you will, incorrectly. Like right when I first tried to get sober, I'd walk in to a room and say, like, I can't recover like these people. I can't believe like these people. Matter of fact, Bill refers to on page 47 of the big book, when people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, I wish I had what this man has. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes. He's comparing. I would walk into the room and I hear people talk about how they recover, and I was like, I couldn't do that. Or talk about this God that they believed in. I was going, I definitely don't want to do that because so I just can't do it. I was still comparing myself. And of course, that pushed me back out of the rooms for the longest time until finally, as the big book says, I was beat into a state of reasonableness. Comparing is bad when we're creating an identity crisis rather than creating an identity confirmation. Comparing is bad whenever we are creating an identity crisis rather than an identity confirmation. When is comparing bad? When it's taking us further away from who we're trying to figure out who we are, right? It's when we're losing sight of who we really are, that's when it's bad. But we can use that comparing tool, if you will, in a positive way. A great example, if you want to lose weight, you stand on scales, you get a number, whatever that may be, and then a week later, you stand on the scales again, you see the number come down. You're comparing, but you're comparing in a positive way, in a healthy way. You can compare yourself that, hey, this time last year I didn't have this job. This time last year I couldn't pay my bills, and now I can. Sure, it might still struggle in this day and age, but at least now I can. At least now I do have a job. At least now I do have a car. There's nothing wrong with comparing. It all comes down to how we decide to compare. One thing we got to be careful, even after we get sober, we tend to sometimes still compare. We say, oh, I'm the chair of this meeting. See, that comparison can still get us, still sneak up on us. I'm the chair of this meeting, so I'm important. I had it right, remember? Or I've got 5 years sober, you've got 5 months, so you can sit down and shut up and make coffee. Comparing is not a bad thing. It's what we do with that comparing that becomes problematic for us, as I've said so many times. Again, we can use it in a positive way. Where you're at, there's nothing wrong with looking at where you were at and comparing it to where you're at now, and then identifying how you're going to get to where you want to go. So there you go. Use that comparing tool for the right reasons and for the right identity confirmation, if you will. So with that being said, I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys for letting me come in and share 5 to 10 minutes of your day with you. You guys absolutely keep me sober, and I could not be any more appreciative. If you have a topic you'd like to hear discussed, drop it in the Recovery Classroom Facebook group page. We'll take a look at it and see what we can do. Again, if you're interested in this big book study via Zoom, send an email in to private message us on Zoom on Facebook. Send your email address into us. We'll put you on the list and let you know when it happens. Remember, guys, you can't get drunk if you don't take that first drink.